Good evening, guys. Welcome you all for today's session. And we are organizing a course on structural designs, which will be right from basics. And to begin with, as I told you yesterday, we will be starting with how exactly our industry, offices or companies in our industry works in structural design firm. And we will be exposing you guys for the process that will happen in any industrial practice, and with which you can have a fair idea, and you can list the activities accordingly and plan for the any particular project. Okay, and moving forward, as I said yesterday, any project for that matter will be initiated by a client. Okay, and a client has to start the process of initiation to the project. Without him, no architect will unnecessarily start designing on any project, or no any designers will get into the design activity. Okay, and without even commencement of the design activity, no execution activity will also follow. So very basic is, there must be a client and he has to have a plot, site for construction. Okay, and in this particular scenario, my client is having a plot with this site number, and with these two basic criteria, a client has initiated the project, and the fundamental thing is he is having a plot. With this, he has intended to construct or to build something in this plot. Okay, and his intentions may be a school building, a commercial building, a residential building, residential apartment for the tenant activity or for selling it again. Likewise, he may has various reasons or various intentions for the execution or for the starting of this project. Okay, depending upon the locality. Okay, if it is a main road, if this is a main road, he may start thinking of duo, commercial in the ground, basement and first. Maybe after that he can start thinking of residential apartments, or something like completely an office space. If it is a very prime spot, he may even think for a mall kind of a thing. So depending upon the locality of the site, where exactly it is situated, the client will be having his own intentions, what he has to come up with for fetching more and more profit. Okay, and with these intentions in mind and with this site plot in this location, he will approach an architect first. Okay, and very first consultant, very first designer who will get into the project is an architect, and he will help the client to design the space, okay, according to his intentions and requirements. For this particular project, my client has clear intentions of going ahead with, say, 10 number of flats, 10 number of dwelling houses, dwelling units. Okay, he wanted to start a residential apartment, construction of residential apartment, and he wanted to sell it off. Okay, and maybe he has planned for, say, 10 number of units. Okay, and all of these intentions, like depending upon his budget, he has committed for 10 number of, or planned in for 10 number of units, and depending upon the market strategies, he may switch to number of bedrooms. Like if it is a very posh area, sophisticated people, economically sophisticated people may come into buying those flats. So their requirements will be much premier, like a 3 BHK minimum or a 4 BHK. So depending upon the market strategies, or if a middle class or economically backward sector, if the builder is targeting such sectors, he will come up with affordable houses. So depending upon his market strategies, his intentions and his requirements, I mean, all of this data he will discuss with the architect first. Based on all of client's requirement, an architect start designing the space for the efficient usage of it. Okay, with the given space, what the best he can come up with, an architect will do that first. Okay, and for a basic coordination with the client, for the client to understand, he will be producing a basic schematic drawing for the base. It will be under still a conceptual stage. Okay, and with this in hand, architect and client will approach the structural engineer, the structural designer. Now comes the the structural engineer will now comes into picture. And being structural engineer, see, being an architect, his major role is to efficiently design the space, based on the client's requirement. This is the first and foremost role or act or importance of the architect, what he has to play here. Okay. Likewise, we as structural engineers, structural designers, the very important role from our end is we need to furnish a supporting system for this architectural intent or for this client's intent. See, a supporting is nothing but it starts from the floor. Whatever the intent of the building, maybe it is a commercial, hospital, school, institutional buildings, or a residential apartment like this, the first and foremost supporting requirement is your slab, floor. Okay. Anything you do, you require a floor to stand on or to make some activity. Okay, and that floor will have to be supported on these beams. If you can notice here in this drawing, this is a with the nomenclature starting from B, standing for beams. You can notice here all of these beams that is brought up here in the schematic representation will be supporting my floor. Okay. In turn, you can also notice these rectangular boxes with hatch, solid hatches. This represents the columns, position of the columns, okay, which will be supporting these beams. Okay. As I said, for any activity to do in any building, the foremost requirement, supporting requirement is floor. Whatever you may do for commercial purpose, residential, for institutional activity, for hospital activity, the very important criteria will be your floor. That floor will be supported with the help of your beams, which will be again will be supported with the help of your columns. The columns will be supported by the footings. This is how we structural engineers or structural designers will furnish in the supporting system for the architectural drawings. Guys, we remember people will say an architect's dream might be a structural engineer's nightmare. Okay, see, whatever the architect designs, we have to furnish the supporting for that. Okay, and this supporting will not freeze very simply. I mean, the process of freezing the supporting system is not very simple. So how will this process happen? As I said, for your better understanding, okay, see, this will be the various activity that will be performed. Say, architectural schematic drawings will be coming in for any structural design office, okay, and the very first cut basic drawings will reach in the structural design office like this. And this, as I mentioned earlier, this will be a first cut drawing done for the initial coordination with client and the structural designer, okay. And I will show you how during the course of the project's progress, how it will be keep on changing. See, you can, this is the final structural drawing issued to the site for execution, okay. You can notice there are certain differences. See, an architect will be looking at you when he is looking at your structural drawing, supporting system drawing, this layout with which we are indicating beams and columns with slabs, of course, we term this as a shuttering layout, formwork layout, or a GA drawing, general arrangement drawing, okay. This is the first cut drawing of the structural engineer, a conceptual drawing of the structural engineer produced for the purpose of coordination with the architect and the client. The similar way how he has done his first cut drawing, even we structural engineers will be doing our first cut structural drawing, and we term it as a shuttering layout in terms, okay. And how will it be done, executed? What are all the components of a first cut structural drawing? Say, you will be having columns situated at desired locations. You will be having beams framing between the columns for supporting of the slabs, okay. And see, if at all you are spanning your beams, say more than 4.5 meters, the slab thickness will go beyond 125, okay. You can notice here we have put up a text, unless not otherwise mentioned, all slabs are 125 thick. Wherever no text is put up, all of these slab thickness are 125 mm thick. So that is the minimum slab thickness we go ahead in the industrial practice, considering all the serviceability criteria like deflection, vibration, creeps, okay. In order to avoid, we have set a standard. Many offices will be having their own standards. So in general, in industrial practice, people will be moving ahead with 125 thick slab with a minimum dimension, minimum slab thickness. They will be starting with 125 thick. Likewise, your beams will be minimum of 200 by 450 and your columns will be minimum of 200 by 450 in dimension. This is your column, one of your column, which will be 200 by 450. 600 here, it will be 200 by 450 in some places. 600 again. So in few locations it will be 450. See, to begin with, we will be starting with minimum dimensions of beams, columns, and slab. Okay, for the first assumption, for the initial assumption. Okay, and in order to achieve that 125 thick slab, in general, considering the residential loading, we will be restricting the slab spanning somewhere in the range 3.6 to 4.5 meters. Okay. Likewise, we will also be restricting the beam spanning somewhere in the range 4 to 6 meters. Okay. In order to achieve the beam depths, or in order to restrict the beam depths somewhere between 450 to 600, we will have to restrict the column to column spacing somewhere between 4 to 6 meters. Okay. If at all it is less than 4 meters, the economy of the, or the efficiency of the columns will go down. If you are spacing the columns very near, though you are having the wall, I mean, it may not be affecting your functionality requirement here. If you furnish in one, add in another column here, see, anyhow it will be concealed within the walls. But the other criteria is, if at all the structure is say G+4, G+6, the columns should be having the reinforcement demand till the terrace or maximum levels possible. See, what I meant is, this structure is G+2 plus terrace. Okay. Say I have spaced all of my columns very closely, and all of the columns are demanding only minimum PT requirement. The efficiency of the column is not up to mark. Okay. The code, in the as per our IS code, they have the guidelines, clear guidelines, that the maximum allowable percentage of PT in any column may take up to 6%. The minimum will be 0.8%. Practically, we can achieve only 4%. Okay. So all of the columns should be somewhere between 2 to 3% or 2 to 3.5% at most of the levels if possible. Okay. If not, the efficiency of the column will be dropping down. That I will be discussing in detail in the upcoming classes. Okay. And so likewise, we will be placing our beams and columns initially for the first cut coordination with the architect. Okay. On sending our first cut drawings, he will be looking at certain factors. Architect will be looking at certain factors. What exactly it is? See, he don't want to visualize any beams or columns. He don't want any beams or columns in apparent. Okay. He want all of his beams and columns to be concealed within his architectural wall layout. See, for this, okay, we can consider this. This is a bedroom, and this bedroom has walls all around. An architect will look the column and beam position in such a way that all of your beams and columns should be concealed well within these walls. Okay. And architects will be very much, showing their apprehensions or resistance to have any beams passing in the occupancy spaces. They don't want to see any beams in between. They don't want to see a beam running like this in between, or like this in between. And all they wanted is, they need a very clear soffit of your slab. Okay. If not, what they has to do is, if it is way out of control based on the structural supporting point of view, what they will be doing is, from the beam bottom, they will be introducing a false ceiling, okay, which is again an additional cost. So they will be into avoiding such happenings, like any beams coming in between or any columns projecting out of your walls. So all of this needs to be taken care while we will be start working with our first cut drawings. I will be showing you guys the coordination that has happened with our architects. The comments are their inputs for our first cut drawings. See, they have few concerns like columns to be shifted for parking purpose. There is a door which is being affected with the column, and again here a door due to this column, provision of this column is affecting a door. Here the introduction of our column has affected their car park. Even here, see, this is a stilt floor architectural plan. That means ground floor architectural plan. From the road you are having a main entry gate. This will be your driveway. From the driveway you will be taking your cars inside your parking lot. Okay, and addition or introduction of our structural columns will not be serving the purpose of car parking. Okay, see, it doesn't mean that we will not have to take care of the structural safety, but we will have to plan our structural system in such a way that to avoid such happenings as much as possible. If it is going way out of control, we cannot do anything, correct? So that their parking system needs to be readdressed again. If at all the given system is not at all happening, not at all working, they will revisit their car parking layout, the driveway locations, such things will happen. Okay, so this is how the process of coordination will happen. Okay, and on such numerous coordination, sometimes the column locations will get freezed first. This is the first and foremost thing any architect will approve. They will be approving the column locations first, that is proposed in the first cut structural drawing or conceptual structural drawings. On freezing of the column locations, we will be very first start working on the excavation and column marking drawings. See, after completing the approval process for our columns, okay, the first and foremost drawing that will be reaching the site is the column central line marking drawing for their for the construction team to start their activity. This is the first and foremost drawing that will reach in the site. Okay, on receiving the column layout drawing, which will be containing the column central lines and the reference dimensions, the dimensions of the column and also the reference dimensions. See, you can notice 200 by 600 is the dimension of the column, and again the reference dimension from any particular vertical and horizontal grid will be given. That will be for the helping of marking at site level. To transfer the column locations and dimensions that is given in the paper to the site, we will be furnishing the necessary data in our column layout. The first and foremost is our central line grid lines. Okay, and we will be also furnishing one of the reference directions both to the vertical grid as well as to the horizontal grid from the corner of your property. Okay, see, once they start marking first and second horizontal and first vertical and horizontal grid, it is a very simple offsetting process for them to mark each and every central line. Okay, for them to do that, we structural engineers will be furnishing this column layout with property line incorporated. This is the property line, boundary line, side boundary line, and with respect to the one of the corner, we will be giving the dimensions to the first vertical and first horizontal grids, and with respect to these grid lines, we will be furnishing the dimensions reference dimensions to mark the corners of the column. Okay, so this is how we will be producing the first drawing to the side, which will be our column layout. After marking these details, they will have to be starting with the excavation. So to begin the excavation, they will be requiring excavation layout or the foundation layout, which again contains the foundation dimensions, okay, with respect to the grid lines. Okay, so this is how various drawings will reach the site. And so though we will have to be freezing from the slab thickness first for our design purpose, but the first and foremost drawing that will be reaching the site is column marking layout and foundation layout for the excavation of the substructure. Okay, so but in our design the process is different. We will be starting from the terrace. Okay, each and every slabs has to be finalized first, otherwise the dead load, maybe I am starting my analysis with the assumption of considering the slab thickness as 125. Okay, while I start designing this slab, I may require say 150 or 175 thick. Okay, then let's say that is adding to the dead load. If this is say G plus 6 or G plus 10, that particular dead load is multiplied by so many number of floors. So that loading will add into your columns as well as to your footings. Okay, so the foundation and column what you have designed with the assumption of 125 thick slab will not be adequate or sufficient for this 175 thick slab. If at all you are making this slab as 175 thick while designing this slab, and this slab drawing you will be issuing to the site maybe after 3 to 4 months of issual of your foundation details. Okay, maybe now in the month of July or in the month of July or August you are issuing this column layout and footing layout to the site. The schedule of issual of this first floor details may happen in the month of November. If you start designing your slabs in the month of November and you are encountering that the furnished or the assumed 125 thick is inadequate and the required slab thickness is 175, by the time your foundation and your columns till plinth level will already been executed, and you cannot revisit your design again going back to your foundation and column reinforcement. So though the site is starting their activity from foundation, we as designers, we will be starting our activity from the terrace. Okay, so the process, the work process in any design office will have to start much early, so that we will have to be starting from terrace and come down till foundation with all the sizes freezed. Okay, and then the dead loads are finalized, and then we will be designing our foundations. So all of this coordination activity with the consultants like architects and MEP, we will have to be finalizing all of our slab thick or structural element dimension like beam dimensions, slab thickness. Even this beam dimensions may affect. Maybe if I start and designing my columns with 450 depth beams, see the effective length of my column may be different, and when my beam depth is 600, the effective length of my column is again changed. So all of these changes during the process of design activity will be definitely having its own impact. So see, in regular practice, we may not say that we will be freezing all of the sizes to 100%, but it has to be at least 90 to 95% accurate. You will have to freeze the slab thickness first, beam dimensions, beam depths, then you will have to go in for your columns and footings. Okay, so this activity should start from the terrace, then you will have to start with your foundation. Otherwise, unnecessary lot of trouble will rise up in the process of your design activity. Okay, so with this preliminary or conceptual structural drawing, we will be sending this to the architect for his first review, and on reviewing this drawing he will be freezing our column locations first. Because why he will be freezing on the column locations first? Because there will be bombarding from the site team. We will be requiring the drawing for the execution, we will be requiring the drawings for the commencement of the execution, and the client will be pressurizing us, pressurizing the consultants to issue the column layout. The column layout has to be issued by the structural engineer. To issue the column layout, what will he say? The architect is not yet finalized our locations and I am holding down my drawing. So again, this has, the blaming has passed on to architect. So to avoid such situations, since this process is already been practiced in the industry for since ages, they have set certain guidelines and certain schedules. So with that, the first and foremost thing an architect will be approving in the structural drawing is our column locations and our column sizes. See, whenever we send in our first cut drawing or conceptual drawing, we will have to make sure that both our column location and column sizes has to be sent properly. Because while finalizing the column locations, see here, see my 200 by 450 column may exactly fit here. If at all my requirement is 200 by 600 or 200 by 750 in the process of while I am into design of column, then that additional length may affect the architectural intent again. So again the architect has to revisit. If it is not acceptable, he will ask us to redo your designs or revisit your designs. So that will be hindrance to the process. The number of iterations will be more if we do not send the designed sizes to the architectural coordination. We should not send only the assumed sizes on doing this framing layout. See, though this is a framing layout, technically we will be calling this as a load path supporting system. So this is how my loads will be transferred to the soil. The loads that is happening on this slab will be transferred first to the beams, from beams to the column, from column to the supporting footing, from footing to the contextual soil strata. Okay, so this way I have defined my load path. Okay, after defining this load path, I will have to be analyzing this structure, whether in the process of load transferring all of my structural members are safe. See, I have assumed a dimension say 200 by 450. Whether this 200 by 450 dimension what I have furnished, whether it is adequate. To do so, what do I need to do? I need to check its design. We will be designing the any structural element not to the externally applied loads. We will be designing the structural members to the forces that are generated, the reaction forces that are generated to the external loading. Okay. And with this, I am just giving you an hint of structural analysis and design, and participants at students level, at academics level still may feel this structural analysis and design quite a complicated process. See, I too am not different from that. It all happened. I mean, there will be people, there will be your seniors, there will be your friends who may communicate or who may influence you that, see, structural engineering is a complicated subject. Do not take it, and be careful with that subject. Otherwise, I mean, you may end up being failed. So, with that biased mindset, to be very frank, even I have not even opted for the matrix method of analysis during my undergraduate studies. It was an optional subject, matrix method, against the environmental subject called solid waste management. I have opted for solid waste management. I mean, with the biased mindset that the structural engineering will be complicated, I may end up getting failed. Okay, so but eventually I ended up doing my master's in structural engineering, and fortunately, since 6 years, I am successfully doing all my responsibilities and roles very efficiently and very successfully in this industry. And having said that, I will have to tell you, this structural engineering or structural analysis or design is not a rocket science. It is not at all a complicated subject. Guys, I will tell you, this is just as simple as your high school physics. Like, the very fundamental of your structural engineering is from your Newton's laws of motions. What does it say? Newton has defined 3 laws. Out of that, we are considering the third law, Newton's third law of motion, which will define or states that for every reaction there is an equal and opposite reaction. Guys, the similar way even our structure behaves. See, there will be an action, okay, and that action will be the external loading, maybe from the living beings that will be occupying this space, maybe from the floor finish, the tiling activity you do here, maybe from the walls you do here, maybe from the furniture that you do here. All of these are setting an action, okay, and the reaction will come from very first from your slab. Okay, the slab is the very first structural member that is subjected to an external action. Okay, and this slab, while reacting, will generate various reaction forces, and we will be designing the slab for that reaction forces, not for the applied loading. We will be designing this slab for that reaction forces, and for that we will be first checking whether the assumed thickness is adequate enough to withstand that reaction forces, that internal forces generated within the slab to resist the external loading. Okay, so to find all of these internal forces in various members, like slab will be having its own internal forces generated depending upon the supporting. Beams will be having its own internal forces generated depending upon its supporting. Likewise, your column, it will be having its own internal forces generated depending upon the framing of your beams. Okay, and your foundations will be having its own internal forces generated depending upon the column positioning and the loading on your column. Okay, so to study all of these internal forces, to study the magnitude or to determine the magnitude of these internal forces generated in each and every structural member, we will be conducting a process called structural analysis. Okay, see, we spoke internal forces, and I also told you that each and every structural member will be having its own internal forces generated depending upon the supporting and loading. Consider the slab. See, the thickness of the slab will be very less, maybe 125, 150, 175, depending upon its spanning. See, this slab is spanned between these beams, and the thickness is just 175 when compared to the span like 3 to 4 meters. Okay, so it is very weak against the thickness. Okay, and the internal forces or the resistant forces that will come up when it is weak with its thickness is your bending. Your slab will be very sensitive to bending. Okay, and again, depending upon its supporting, since it has beams all round supported equally, like we say equivalent loading, the similar way here it is a equivalent supporting. Your slab is supported on all edges with the help of beams. Okay, and in turn your column in the location of your slab and column is stiffened by your beams. Okay, so this will somehow manage for against the punching shears. If not, if we are removing this beam, consider we are removing this beam and we do not have any beam in this location, what will happen? See, this 125 thick slab may not work here, because if you consider an example of a pen placed on a sheet of paper, the sheet of paper will be punched by your pen. The thickness of your paper is very small. Again, if you are considering the same pen on a 200-page notebook, okay, your notebook will never punch. Similar way, if at all it is just a slab rested on your column, you need to take care of this junction, the slab and your column, where this slab will be prone to the punching shear. Likewise, depending upon the supporting as well as the loading, there will be generation of resistant forces. Okay, it may be bending, it may be shear, it may be torsion, it may be axial forces. In slab, which is supported by beams all round on all four edges, it will be subjected to bending predominantly. In slab, where there is no proper beam arrangement in the column slab junction, in addition to the bending, it will also be experiencing shear. Okay, and in column in your beams, okay, where see certain beams like, yes, this here there is a cantilever projection. A beam, as we all know, it is predominantly under bending and shear. See, the column, the slab has infinite width. The width of the slab will be like 3 meters, 4 meters. Okay, and the depth will be like 125, 150, 175. The the depth will be sensitive in your slab and width will be infinite, and hence there won't be risk of any shear if the slab is surrounded on all four edges by beams. Whereas your beams, its width is defined 200, 300, maximum 400, 500, and its depth also is mostly defined. Okay, so with this dimension arrangement, your beam will be prone to bending because of depth is, though the depth is much higher than your slab, but again depending upon the spanning of your beam, your depth may go weak, may become sensitive again, and with which there will be generation of bending moment. And also, since the width of the beam is very much defined, very much small, your beam will also be acted upon by shear. Okay, there will also be generation or producing of shear forces inside your beam along with your bending, whereas your slab, it will only generate bending moment. Your beams will be generating bending moment plus shear force predominantly in standard cases. But in this peculiar case, the slab will also experience shear force. Similar way, in this peculiar way, your beam will also be subjected to torsion, because there is a cantilever slab happening here, which will be pulling your beam towards left. In turn, your beam will be experiencing this torsion. In addition to bending and shear, your beam will also be subjected to torsion here. Okay, so this is how the first cut analysis you can do. And coming to your columns, see, the interior columns will be having your beams tied on all four sides. Okay, and this beam will be pulling your column upwards, B7 left, the other part of B7 towards right, the other part of B26 towards downwards. With this arrangement, my column is under equilibrium, somewhat under equilibrium against this pulling activity. Now imagine if by chance I am omitting this beam. Okay, these two forces, the pulling forces from B7 towards left and the pulling forces from B7 towards right, will be definitely nullified. But what about this pulling force of B26 towards up? It cannot be neutralized with this, without this beam, and hence there will be pulling of this column towards upwards along with the axial force. See, the column will be predominantly under axial forces, axial tension or compression, because of the loading applied both from top and bottom. The column will be predominantly subjected to compression. See, there will be this column. Imagine this is your column. There will be loading from up and from down. Okay, or there will be support from down, loading from up. With this type of loading, your column will be predominantly under compression. Having said that, this is additional case wherein the pulling of beams will happen to the column. Okay, if the pulling is not neutralized in both the sides, your column will experience a bending, and in this particular case it is experiencing a bending in one direction. Otherwise, it was experiencing only pure axial forces. It was experiencing only the loading from top, the support from bottom. Okay, the loading will be happening along its axis, along the axis of its body. Hence, we usually term such loading as axial loadings. Okay, and here in this case, it will be subjected to bending, and that too bending in only one direction. The other direction is still under equilibrium. So this is the typical case of uniaxial bending columns, whereas your corner columns, so you consider this column. Here there is a beam, and there is no other beam which will counteract this pulling. So this column will be subjected to bending along with axial force. Hence, such columns will be under biaxial bending. This column will be under uniaxial bending, and these columns will be under predominantly under axial forces. Okay, so this is a fair idea you will have to have with respect to the type of reaction forces that may get generated in each and every structural element during the process of loading and with the given supporting system. Okay, but see, I may say this column is under uniaxial bending, this is under biaxial bending, this is predominantly under axial force. I may say that, but I need the specific magnitude of that bending moment, that axial force, to design this column. And the process of arriving or determining each and every reaction forces in each and every structural element is what we term as structural analysis. In structural analysis, we will starting from the bending moment magnitude that is generated in each and every slab, the bending moment and shear in your beam, the axial and uniaxial or biaxial bending moments that is generated in the columns, and the total reaction load at the bottom of your column for designing your footing. All of these forces, the determining the magnitude of all of these forces in each and every structural member is what we call it as structural analysis. Okay. On arriving to these reaction forces in each and every member, we will be starting the structural designs. Okay, guys, the process of this structural analysis, to conduct the process of the structural analysis, we are having several approaches. Okay, and one being your experimental approach, analytical approach, finally the numerical approaches. How do we do structural analysis with the help of experimental approaches? See, if at all we have to analyze any structure with the help of experiments, consider if I need to analyze this structure with the help of experiment, I need to cast the prototype of this structure, okay, exactly the same, to some scale. See, this may be under 3 meters. I may be bringing down this structure, say, to 3 centimeters or 30 centimeters. Okay. I'm scaling it down for the experimental purpose. To the same scale, I will be applying the loading, but I will have to apply the loading after 28 days of the curing. See, though I am creating a prototype, the prototype has to be with the same building material that you are intended to cast. The building materials predominantly will be RCC or masonry or even steel to some extent. Okay, so the prototypes has to be done with the same materials, same building materials, and if at all it is RCC, you will have to keep it for curing for 28 days to achieve its design strength. Only after that you will be applying the loading onto the prototype, that to the same scale. If the 3000 mm, I am scaling it down to the 30 mm, thereby the scale is 1 in 100. Okay, to the same scale I will have to bring down the loading. If my loading actually is 200 kg, I should actually apply only 2 kgs of loading per meter square. So that is how people will conduct experimental approaches for analyzing any structure, and practically it is not feasible and desirable to execute or to conduct such method of analysis, which will kill your time, which will require very sophisticated laboratory system arrangements, and with all of this you will be finding it way too difficult to compete in this industry. Okay, moving forward, we are having another approach called your analytical approach, with which you will be starting to analyze your structure with the analytical methods like your Canis method, your moment distribution method. Okay, but guys, imagine for analyzing a simple continuous beam or continuous beam arrangement using Canis method or moment distribution method, we would have fetched at least 1 hour to solve one simple continuous beam analysis. Okay, with that, again we will be very incompetent in this industry. So people have switched into numerical approaches, and these numerical approaches will be computer based approaches, and the very fundamentals will start from your matrix methods, and which have eventually evolved into your finite element analysis. Okay, and see guys, with the help of this finite element analysis, the analysis and design may not be 100% accurate. It is an approximated method, but still the results are very competitive enough considering time and economy. Okay, and with this finite element approach, we are having n number of softwares like ETABS, STAD. Okay, but if at all you are concentrating on building sectors, we will be predominantly sticking to the software called ETABS, which is precisely for your analysis and design of your buildings. Okay, your STAD is an universal software. You can analyze anything in that, analyze and design anything using STAD, but your ETABS, it is predominantly for your buildings and any type of buildings like your commercial, residential, hotels, your institutional buildings like schools. Any type of buildings can be analyzed and designed using your ETABS. Okay, and there will be 3 fundamental steps involved in the analysis or design of your computer based approaches. First being your pre-processing stage, where you will be inputting all the necessary information to your ETABS. You will be creating your model, you will be idealizing, assigning your support conditions like boundary fixity or pinned connections to the model, and you will be defining the loads, you will be assigning the loads into your model, you will be imparting material properties, section properties into your model, and also you will be meshing it finally. Okay, so and we will be calculating the loads with various provisions furnished in the IS codes. Okay, and all of these loads will be calculated. Then comes, after all of this process, we will be getting into the solver stage. Let me show you the ETABS model. Okay, this is how you are inputting the geometrical data into your ETABS, with modeling the slabs, modeling the beams, modeling the columns. Okay, and you will be defining the materials: M25 grade concrete, Fe500 steel, Fe415 steel. You will be defining the section properties of beams and columns: B for beam, C for columns, 200 by 450, 200 by 600. Such section properties you will be inputting, and you will be also inputting the slab thicknesses. Okay, you will be defining various loads: dead load, live load, superimposed dead loads, earthquake loading. Finally, you will be also defining the load combinations. You will be setting the model to run. Okay, and once you set the model to run, there will be solvers in this, programmed in this software, that will run the analysis and fetch you the analysis results. Okay, before running this solver, all the data that you are inputting to your software, that process is termed as your pre-processing stage. And once you set this model to run, the model will be under analysis. That will be done with the help of solvers based on artificial intelligence. Okay, and once the analysis is completed, your solver stage is completed. See, I have mentioned here various steps involved. One is pre-processing, another is solver. Solver is very simple. Only by clicking this run button, the solver stage is completed. See, then comes your post-processing stage. Post-processing stage is nothing but extracting the results from the software. Say, for a desired combination, you will be checking the bending moment and shear forces. Okay, see, these are all the analysis results that you will be viewing in your software, in that is generated in each and every structural member, with the help of which you will be starting to design. And again, with one simple click, the software will be doing its design. Okay, design is also completed. With one simple click, the software will be doing its analysis. With one simple click, the software will be completing its design. But guys, the very important thing is, all of this is done by software with artificial intelligence, but you will have to be accepting these results. Okay, so you will have to be knowledgeous enough to make sure all of these results given by this software is fair enough, is very proper. Okay, and In this course, we are first starting up with a residential building, the same building what we just discussed. It is a G+2 apartment. Okay, we will be starting with this project first. We will be discussing on freezing the structural load path drawing, and we will be modeling this drawing. See, the same beam, column, slab arrangement will be modeled in the ETABS, and that is what creation of geometry, calculation of various gravity loads as per our IS codal provisions. Like, as I said, the various loadings will be calculated here. See, the dead loads as per IS code, the live load as per IS code, so and so. The superimposed dead load is something that you need to manually calculate depending upon the architectural intent, the floor finish with the vitrified tile finish. The 50 mm will be the floor finish, and normally with granite or marble finish, 75 mm thick will be your floor finish. Filling loads with this intent. See, this all of these are your toilet areas where your toilet will be sunken with respect to the adjacent slabs, because to run the pipelines, and after that you will be filling it back. This filling will be an additional loading that needs to be calculated. Okay, waterproofing. See, in terraces you will be doing muddy activity or churky activity for waterproofing, and that comes with some thickness. Again, partition walls. See, all of these walls are partition walls. To make it a room, you will be having walls all around, and all of these walls will be termed as partition walls, and these wall loadings needs to be calculated. Okay, and false ceiling, if at all you are planning for false ceiling, again this will be an additional load on your slabs. All of this loading will be calculated, and various, see, these are all fundamental loadings, fundamental gravity loadings, which we will be discussing. The calculation of the same to the same project, the complete loading calculation will be done to the same project with this architectural drawing, and as per the relevant IS codal provisions. We will be referring the codal clauses, we will be referring this architectural drawing, and we will be calculating each and every loading. The same loading we will be applying to your ETABS model. Okay, and after completing the analysis in ETABS, okay, we will have to be checking the correctness of the software. Okay, we can do that only by comparing the results of your ETABS with any other approach. The results that is generated from these ETABS should have to be, as I said, your ETABS is your numerical approach. This has to be compared with analytical approach. Okay, experimental approach we are not at all practicing. This has to be compared with analytical approach or with the help of some industrial practice thumb rules. Okay, so with that we will be first confirming the results that are exhibited from our softwares is correct, and only after that we will be proceeding further to do the stability checks on foundations, columns and retaining walls. Okay, for the same project we will be doing the stability checks for the same project, and then we will be starting to design the foundations, columns, beams and slabs and staircase as well to the same project completely. We will be completely designing each and every footing, each and every column. This is the column reinforcement details, and we will be completely designing your beams. This is your beam reinforcement details. Each and every beam here we will be designing for this particular project. Okay, and we will be completely designing the slabs. Each and every slabs will be designed. These are the slab reinforcement details. Finally, your staircase. We will also be designing the staircase for this project. So this is what that is involved in this structural design basics. We will be starting from geometry creation, load calculations, assigning to the same in models, checking the correctness of the software. Then we will be checking the stability of each and every structural member. Finally, we will be designing each and every structural member for this complete project, as well as we will be considering additionally we will be considering a commercial building. Similar way, with the same approach, we will also be designing a commercial building. See, the only difference will be with your load calculations. The load calculations in commercial building will be different, and the same way it will be different for your residential purpose. Okay, see, all of these elements, each and every elements, all of these that are designed in the structural designs basics will be represented in the schematic formation in our course structural drafting with the help of AutoCAD software. So we will be first discussing on the process of detailing the structural members. In this second course, we will be first discussing the process of detailing. See, somehow I have designed my footing saying this is the dimensions I require, this is the breadth and width and depth for my footing I require, and this is the reinforcement I require. This is what design is. But the detailing is something like this. You will have to be knowing how exactly you are placing your footing reinforcement bars, how exactly you are placing your column reinforcement bar. This is called as detailing. Okay, and this is done again with the help of a codal practice called SP34. It is IS codal practice. Okay, and after discussing the detailing, we will be starting to draw the same thing in our AutoCAD software. Okay, so the discussion on detailing and drawing the drawings in the AutoCAD, drawing the structural drawings in the AutoCAD, and preparation of various drawings like column layout, footing layout, footing reinforcement details. This is a some drawing. Column reinforcement drawing we will be doing after discussing the detailing arrangement required in the column. Then we will be moving ahead with detailing of each and every beam. How do we need to detail our fixed beams? How do we need to detail our simple supported beams? When do we call a beam as simple support? How exactly the beams will behave in the practical scenarios? With the help of detailing, we will be discussing first, and after that we will be drawing the same thing in our AutoCAD software. Beams, your staircase drawings, your staircase detailing will be discussed, and drawing of the same for this particular project we will be doing here. And also finally we will be discussing on your slab detailing, how exactly your top parts to be curtailed, how exactly you need to detail your slab reinforcement, and how exactly to draw it. Okay, and this is the overall motto and agenda of our course, first two course. And finally the third course is structural design advanced, where we will take you guys to earthquake analysis, dynamic wind analysis, and some special structures like raft, pile foundations, and water retaining structures, flat slab systems, and also your uh, flat plate systems. See, these are all advanced systems that we will be discussing in structural designs advanced, and which we will not be taking up now. For now, we will be only concentrating on structural design basics as well as our structural drafting. And with this very brief introduction to our course commencement has been given to you guys, and I hope few of you have already been registered, and if you guys are yet to register, you can do it now. And this first class is for free for you people to get to know us. And so if you guys are really interested and felt worth on joining this course, you guys are very much welcome, and you can join in here. Now with this, we are setting the session for discussion. You guys are now unmuted. You guys can interact with us for any queries. And there is a guy called Rajshekhar who has put up a query. What is the course fee? See guys, the first course, structural design basics, will be for 3,000. The second course, structural drafting, will also be for 3,000. If you guys are opting both together, and it will be furnished for 5,000. Okay, guys, now all of you have unmuted for interaction session. You guys can raise any queries of yours regarding the discussion we had so far, or related to joining the course. Any queries regarding that? I hope Rajshekhar's query is answered. Will the Excel sheet and AutoCAD files and class video be shared? See, of course, we will be sharing this, but the video will be, only the link will be shared, which will be having the validity period for 1 year. You can access from your electronic gadgets, laptop or your mobiles, anywhere, anytime. And of course, Excel sheets for manual designs for foundation, beams, columns, slabs will be furnished. And the AutoCAD files, of course, at the end of this class, you will be able to complete the AutoCAD class. AutoCAD files. Okay. I hope Rajshekhar's question is answered. There is another. Can you share once again the fee structure? See, the fee structure is 3,000 for structural designs basic and 3,000 for structural drafting. Both together, if you are opting, it will be for 5,000. We have module 2 courses, one being structural design basics, another being structural drafting. If you are opting for both the course together, it will be 5,000. And if you are opting for only one course, it will be for 3,000. From tomorrow, we are starting our sessions rigorously. And since only today it's for free, and we wanted to get ourselves familiar with you guys. Since this is an online session, since this is an online class, people may be little doubtful whether is this a trustworthy site or trustworthy organization. So hence we wanted us to get us exposed with you guys. For that we have organized this first session as free. From tomorrow it will be regular paid sessions. Guys who are interested can get registered and pay us the corresponding payments. Will you model in StatPro or ETABS only? As I said, in the market, in all industrial practice, in all design offices, people, we are rigorously predominantly using ETABS software for analyzing and design buildings, whether it is residential, commercial, office spaces, institutional school buildings, any buildings for that matter. People are predominantly using ETABS. It is universally accepted. And wherever ETABS has its own limitations, only there we will be switching to STAAD. We will also be, in the course of our discussion, we will also be discussing with you the limitations of ETABS. Wherever you feel, we feel that ETABS has its limitations, only for that particular cases we will be using the STAAD Pro. Sir, even lintel beams and plinth beams will be covered. Definitely, even that will be covered. Lintel and plinth beams will be covered. I hope Rajshekar's and Charan Gowda's queries is also been addressed. Any more queries? You guys can feel free and talk to us. Earthquake and wind analysis will be covered in our structural design advanced. Okay. And see, only after having a fair grip on your gravity load analysis, you will be having a thorough knowledge on, to progress with earthquake and wind. Without the proper fundamentals and basics on your gravity load analysis, it is not worth to go ahead with advanced. So we are keeping it for last. Maybe after completion of these two courses, if you guys are interested, and we are opting this course. This is exclusively designed for the professionals. Okay, and I can guarantee you, we will guarantee you the outcome of these first two courses. The outcome of first two courses, say you will be at least as good as, technically as good as 1 to 2 year experienced design engineer. On completion of structural design basics and structural drafting, the outcome I can guarantee you, you will be at least as good as 1 to 2 year experienced design engineer. With that background, and also with the addition of professional design engineers, we will be starting with the structural design advanced. Any more queries, guys? Both courses will take it around 90 days. See, actually we have planned for 1.5 hour sessions, maybe between 7 to 8:30 or 7:30 to 9. So with 1.5 hour a day, and also with additional stretching ourselves additionally during Saturdays and Sundays, we will be definitely closing it with 60 days. We will definitely not be dragging it more than 60 days. Covering all the points, we will be closing with 60 days. I hope Mr. Sai Rupe's query is answered. You are most welcome, Mr. Sai Rupesh. Please join in the registration link and pay us the course fee using PhonePe, and you can share us the screenshot using WhatsApp. Any more queries, guys? We will share you the registration links and the phone number to which you will have to pay right after this session ends. You guys interested, please feel to join into the course, and also help us to reaching out to your friends. You guys can really refer us if you feel worthy, and even if they are adding into the course, it will be much healthier. And with this note, we are concluding the today's session. Hope you all felt benefited with this. From tomorrow, as we discussed, it will be paid sessions, and guys who have paid us only can join in from tomorrow. There is this message from Mr. Surya Prakasha. I don't have any software except AutoCAD. How to get the other softwares? Guys, we will be sharing you through Google Drives. Okay, and the softwares, the required softwares will be emailed you guys through Google Drives. You can download it and install those softwares. Okay. Are there any more queries, guys? Okay. With this note, we are concluding today's session. Feel free to join our course if you're feeling it